Welcome back, bookworms. This is Mrs. K. I'm glad you could join me. All Julien J wants to do is read his comic book in peace. But when distractions interrupt him time and time again, his frustration boils over. Julian kicks at the ground, he yells, he cries, and when the dust settles, he can't believe what he sees. Bluebullet, the hero from his comic book, is standing right in front of him. Let's enjoy the magic of reading as we read together Shrieks and Sounds and Things Abound, The Quiet Wants of Julien J, written by Dr. Drew Palacio and illustrated by Apolline Etienne, and learn what Bluebullet has to say about working through the most frustrating moments like a true superhero. Julian ran, full of excitement and glee, and tucked himself under a big oak tree. The school day was through, and his homework was done. Finally, he could read Bluebullet, issue 161. His eyes opened wider with the turn of each page, as Bluebullet did battle with the evil slime sage. Julian read on, wondering what might happen next. But then he heard a sound, a chirp he did not expect. And there by his feet was a short feathery fiend, a crow with a bow and a vest of aquamarine. "Caw, caw!" shrieked the crow, hopping up and down. How could Julian read with this loud crow around? "Shh!" Julian hushed as he slumped against the tree. Trying to focus, he propped his book on his knees. Julian found where he'd left off, and just in time to see Bluebullet thunder punch that evil, mean slime. Silent he sat, at last reading again, though he still wasn't happy with his odd-feathered friend. Just as Bluebullet's battle was reaching its peak, Julian heard an odd buzzing near his left cheek. His eyes rose off the page, and what did he see? A group of sneezing, wheezing, black-backed bumblebees. They sneezed and they sniffled, fumbled and bumbled. Indeed, they didn't care one bit that Julian was trying to read. "Ah!" Julian growled. No, of course it didn't matter. How on earth could he read with these chirps and this chatter? With his heart quickly pounding, he jumped up and said, "Ugh! Can't you all just buzz off instead?" Julian returned to his book with a very tight grip and hoped all these creatures would go take a trip to a circus, perhaps, for birds and for bees, where penguins and wasps fly on flying trapeze. But they weren't and they wouldn't. He sighed and he groaned, and he read as slime smacked Bluebullet with a sticky sludge stone. And just as his hero recovered and rose, a smell tickled Julian. It got stuck in his nose. It smelled like old onions and black licorice sticks. Was that rotten bologna? It was making him sick. Julian felt his hand shaking as he pushed up with force. He sniffed at the stench, trying to locate its source. And there, with flair, was a little chef pig who was preparing her dinner on some hot rocks and twigs. A pig? Why a pig? Julian groaned, and when he looked, he saw the little pig do a jig while she cooked. Julian tried to sit down, to return to his tale, but the feelings inside made him just want to wail. The bees were still sneezing, the crow cackled on, and the pig did a spin and put another twig on. Just then, in the sky, there was a whiz and a whir. Was it lightning? A comet? Julian just wasn't sure. He couldn't believe something else was on the way to absolutely and completely ruin his day. And when whatever it was landed with a crack, Julian's rage boiled over. He couldn't hold back. His heart pounded harder. His eyes teared as he groaned. Julian leapt up and screamed, "Stop it! Leave me alone! I just want to read," he cried, and he roared. No one had ever heard a kid scream so loud before. Julian kicked at the ground, sending dirt flying. Then he sank to the grass, worn out and crying. As the dust settled, Julian wiped tears from his eyes, and what he saw before him was quite a surprise. It was the bringer of justice, the destroyer of doom. It was Bluebullet. The creatures gave him some room. Bluebullet looked so strong in his shiny blue suit. He had muscles on muscles from his neck to his boot. "Bluebullet!" Julian cried. But why are you here? Are there villains afoot? Are there monsters to fear?" "I came," said the hero, "when I sensed your distress. And after what I saw, Julian, I must confess. I flew here to help you, but you seem less than thrilled. When I landed, you were screaming, your voice loud and shrill." "You don't understand," Julian exclaimed. "All these noisy creatures around me are to blame." Bluebullet knelt down, now eye to eye with the boy. "It can be hard to be calm when we feel annoyed." Bluebullet then looked to the bird and the sneezy bees, and to the pig by the twigs who chomped on old moldy cheese. He then looked to Julian, who had tears on his face, and to the comic he held, now ripped and all out of place. The champion then smiled, as all heroes do, and took the boy's comic for a moment or two. From his bionic belt, Bluebullet took a pen and wrote a brief message at the tale's end. He returned the book and ruffled the boy's hair, and with a smile and salute, he flew into the air. "Keep reading, Julian, and at the end you will find a message that helps me when I'm in a bind. Huzzah!" Bluebullet shouted as he flew out of sight. There were people to save and villains to fight. Amazed, Julian couldn't wait. He just had to look. So he turned to the end of that old comic book. "Julian, this fluster, this bluster, well, it just isn't you. Don't you see all the pain you've put yourself through? All this yelling and stomping, it can't be fun. And now, at least in this moment, your anger has won. I wonder if, next time, you can try to ignore all those sounds and bothers that leave you so sore. I know that to do so can seem quite tough, but there's a trick I use when I call evil slimes bluff. Why, I take a quick moment and try to remind myself of faces and places from better past times, of the hot dogs I've eaten and the sleepovers I've had, of the heroes who spoke to me when I was a young lad. And in these fond places I am usually left with a smile and a moment to catch my breath. And if, even for just a second, I can return to my best, I'm better off than I was, a sight villains detest. So give it a try, because I know that you can. You're honest and good. That's why I'm your #1 fan. Sincerely, B.B. Julian smiled, then as he flipped from the last page back to where Bluebullet was defeating Slime Sage. Around him the creatures buzzed, sang, and cawed. But now Julian knew how to work through it all. He took a deep breath and thought of Bluebullet. And as he exhaled, Julien J knew he could do it. you enjoyed Shrieks and Sounds and Things Abound, be sure to check it out at your local library or buy a copy for yourself from your favorite bookstore. If you enjoyed this Read Aloud video, please give it a thumbs up and become an official bookworm and subscribe. Until next time, enjoy the magic of reading!